This was a Cold War being fought between America and the Soviet Union. On May the 25th, 1961, they made this promise during a public speech.
Before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
2, 1, 0, all engine running. Liftoff, we have a liftoff, 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
Between 1970 and 1979, the third edition of the Great Soviet Encyclopedia was published, and for the first time it acknowledged the Apollo moon landing as a historical fact. It referred to it as the third major milestone of the space age. The first, as I mentioned earlier, was the launch of Sputnik in 1957, the second Yuri Gagarin's spaceflight in 1961, and the third mankind's first step on the moon during the Apollo 11 mission July 20th, 1969. Even the Soviet Union acknowledged that it happened. But then what about the flag? We know there's no air or wind on the moon. So why did the American flag appear to be waving? The answer lies in how the flag was designed. They knew there's no medium on the moon. So how would a flag stand out straight? Unlike a regular flag that only has a vertical pole, this one had a horizontal rod attached at the top so it could stay extended and visible. And here's an interesting twist: during the Apollo 11 mission, when they tried to fully extend that rod, it didn't open all the way. That's why you can see some wrinkles in the flag, which makes it look like it's waving. These ripples and folds give the illusion of movement. But notice closely, you only see the flag waving while the astronauts are planting it on the lunar surface. At that moment, the aluminum rods were acting a bit like springs, causing some temporary motion. But after that, you can see the flag stays completely still. Another theory questioned why aren't there any stars visible in the background of the photos taken by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin? Actually, the answer to that is very simple. The moon landing happened around dawn, and if you look at the astronauts' suits, they were already starting to reflect a lot of light. And the cameras used back then weren't super high-end professional ones, especially when it came to zoom or light capture. Even today, if you take a photo of the sky with a phone camera and use flash, you'll hardly ever capture any stars. Another theory claims that multiple shadows are visible from different angles, like in a cricket stadium where lights hit from all sides and shadows go in different directions. So this too was compared to a Hollywood-style set. But the truth is, the sun wasn't the only source of light at that time. The moon's surface also reflects light. That's why the light was scattered in all directions, and that's what caused those unusual shadows. Another theory raised a question in the photo of Buzz Aldrin taken by Neil Armstrong. There's no camera visible in Neil's hands. You can see Neil's reflection in Buzz's helmet visor, but there's no camera seen there. Later investigation revealed that the camera was actually mounted on Neil's chest. It was attached to his suit. There's also the question if both Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin were stepping down from the lander, then who was taking the photos? The answer is simple: there were also cameras installed on the command shuttle. Now about the cost. The amount spent on going to the moon could have built 75 to 120 universities, each the size of Harvard. That means every US state could have had its own Harvard-sized university with that same budget. Critics argued that while the country was facing serious issues like poor education, income inequality, and the fallout from the Vietnam War, this was just a waste of money. But later on, many hidden benefits of the moon landing emerged, things no one even imagined at the time. For example, the advancement in computer chips. This was the era when IBM first introduced microchips. In the 1960s, IBM had actually planned to put that program on hold. But NASA's rising demand for integrated circuits forced IBM to revive the project, and because of that high demand, in just 5 years, the price of microchips dropped drastically. Their availability reached the general public and prices fell by as much as 90%. Then came the new debate: can we really rely on computers for things like human life? If a man could rely on a chip to walk on the moon, why not for saving lives in medicine? After Apollo 11, technology started growing rapidly. But just 3 years later, in December 1972, the final Apollo 17 mission was launched to the moon. And friends, it's been over 50 years since then, and no human has gone back. That alone is the biggest proof of how expensive the Apollo program really was. Over 400,000 scientists, engineers, and technicians worked on it, and the cost at that time was $24 billion. In today's money, that's more than $100 billion. In the beginning, only a specific class and a few journalists criticized the project. But by 1972, pursue NASA's program was losing public interest. People's attention was shifting from the moon landing to the Vietnam War, and even the general public began to see the space program as a massive waste of money. NASA originally had plans to continue up to Apollo 20, but politicians had to listen to the voice of the people. In December 2017, Donald Trump announced that NASA's budget would be increased and astronauts would return to the moon. But later that statement was modified, saying NASA should shift focus from the moon to Mars. Still, more than 50 years later, NASA has now made a new plan to send people back to the moon. Their new Artemis program will begin testing with unmanned rockets. And according to the plan, by 2026, the first woman will be sent to the moon. One thing can be said for sure: before this decade ends, we will once again see humans on the moon. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe to the channel so I can bring you more interesting content. See you in the next video. Salam, friends.